Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the September 17th meeting of the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service Board. We'd like to begin with the roll call, but I will note that the Deputy Chair, Matt Hall, is absent with notice. Other than that, all members are present. The approval of the agenda, I would like, if possible, to amend the agenda. And could we have motion 7.1, our presentation on the school backpack program, please moved to appear before item 6.1, monthly activity reports. Moved by Member Wiersma, seconded by the Mayor. All those in favor? Thank you very much for that. And so the agenda has been approved as amended. Declarations of pecuniary interest, seeing none. We move on to the reading and correction and approval of the minutes. The general meetings of August 20th, 2024. And we recommend that the minutes of August 2024, general meeting of the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service Board be approved as written. Looking for a mover. Member Hahn, seconded by Member Wiersma. All those in favor? Approved. Thank you very much. Which rapidly takes us to communications. And we'll start off by having the recommendation that the communication items 5.1.1 to 5.1.6 be received for information. Moved by the Mayor, seconded by Member Wiersma. All those in favor? Approved. And now, do any members wish to ask questions about any of these as they are presented by the Chief? Chief, did you want to talk about them first, or do any of these, or should we just launch into them?
So through the chair, I'll wait for any questions that the board members may have.
Member Wiersma, do you have a question?
511, Mark, do we have much of a problem with e-bikes or electrical stuff and anything we have to know?
So through the chair to Member Wiersma, I'm going to say there's two different questions I think I'm hearing there. Do we have question or problems with e-bikes? From a collision perspective, no. We have very minimal collisions involving bicycles in general, let alone e-bikes. With obviously the arrival and the increase in use of e-bikes, safety is a paramount concern for us to ensure that users have the appropriate protective gear on. We are certainly seeing a lot more young people, youths, utilizing e-bikes or e-scooters, and we certainly would encourage, from their parents' perspective, encouragement of use of safety equipment, specifically helmets, as we want to ensure that if and when there are times where they fall off, that they have the appropriate safety gear in place to protect, most importantly, their head.
Thank you for that, Chief. I have a follow-up question I'm allowed as chair. Is it possible to gain statistics from our local hospital about emergency, injuries that might have occurred through the use of e-scooters and e-bikes? Because I read an article recently, and it said in Alberta, I think injuries had gone up something like 400%. And I know my own experience walking around town. I've got people whistling by me on the sidewalks at probably 25 kilometers per hour, and they're not wearing helmets, they're not wearing any knee pads or arm pads or wrists. And I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can find out locally if there's been a spike in injuries attributable to some of these pretty speedy electric vehicles?
So through the chair, to the chair, if there is a injury that results from, say, a collision, we should have that information and have that record. If it doesn't or isn't reported to us, but they do attend, say, the local hospital, that information would be recorded there. But your question may be challenging in that accessing medical or healthcare records sometimes presents some challenges, and I'm not sure that we would get perhaps full disclosure through the hospital about frequency of those types of injuries being reported at our local hospital.
Yeah. Thank you. I realize the complications. I just wonder provincially if there's any way to that, because I know that when we see individuals going by at pretty good speeds and they're not wearing helmets or any protective gear, my mind goes to the idea of like what's going to happen. And also when they collide with a pedestrian or a vehicle. I guess another follow-up question is, I don't know if the province is going to do anything about this, but these e-scooters on the sidewalks going at 25 kilometers per hour, whatever, and maybe even some of the items that are being used by seniors. Is there a speed limit on the sidewalks in terms of what the maximum you could be going before you should be on the road?
So through the chair to the chair, there is no maximum speed limit on sidewalks, but I think that perhaps a review of the local bylaw regarding streets bylaw and use of sidewalks, or prohibiting the use of sidewalks for bicycles or e-scooters or any form of transportation other than, say, a buggy or a carriage should be sort of banned or prohibited. I believe the City of London has that built into their bylaw for that very specific reason, in that, you know, their history has shown that they've had collisions involving cyclists and pedestrians on the sidewalk that have resulted in very serious and in some cases fatal collisions. So I think that perhaps a scan of the current bylaw and updating that bylaw to include a prohibition of vehicles on sidewalks would be the most appropriate place to maybe start to ensure safety for our residents.
Thank you for that. The Mayor?
Just going to follow up on that, and yes, you're correct, Chief. In London, they do prohibit bicycles, whatever the appropriate place is for me to bring them up. But the traffic committee is a good way to start to initiate that process, because I agree with you, Chair. I've almost got run over the odd time that I walked. So I do want to speak about 5.1.2, the Crimes Against Women Conference. Is anybody from our force attending that, Chief?
Yes, so through the chair to the mayor, I think we have initially 2 members slated to attend, but we're looking to see if there is other opportunities for other members to go.
That's good, thank you for that. And then 5.1.6, the alcohol retail expansion. I know it's governed by the Alcohol Gaming Commission, but does our force have anything to do with enforcing, you know, the expanded, just to make sure that everything's done properly?
So again, through the mayor through the chair to the mayor, we would have enforcement opportunities if presented. It's pretty early in the process.
Yeah.
Certainly, we would work with AGCO, the Alcohol Gaming Commission, to understand and see if there is any activities or actions that they would require of us. I think because it's so early that they probably want to remain or maintain jurisdiction of that. We certainly, I have not been made aware of any issues here locally regarding the sale in variety stores or other places other than the designated locations that we traditionally go to. Anecdotally, I will say where I buy my lottery tickets is maybe next door to the beer store, and I found it very ironic, perhaps, that I looked over at the cooler and saw beer in the cooler at the variety store right next to the beer store, but there are people smarter than me in different positions. So, but to answer your question, we would certainly make ourselves available to work with the AGCO whenever they require our help.
And the Mayor, follow up.
Just to follow up, and anecdotally, I'll pontificate for a minute. There aren't too many new laws that bother me, but being the grandfather of 5 grandsons, 3 of whom are teenagers now, this is one change that bothers me. Just knowing the troubles and remembering back to my own youth. So anything we can do to watch over it would be greatly appreciated.
And Member Hahn.
I had 2 comments. One was just an inquiry or a suggestion. On these reports, there were 2 of them that were over 100 pages to read, and we have that often in other reports also. And I wondered if it's like the CBC News. They put something, you have it first thing in the morning, and it's like, what's at stake and why is it important to board members? Is that something that maybe we could inquire of the chief, if that would help? Let's say, for instance, for 5.1.5 and 5.1.1. I did try to take the time to go through the 100 pages, but it would be really neat. And I mean really brief, meaning, you know, look at these two excerpts or page whatever, and what's at stake here for us, maybe as board members too?
So through the chair to Member Han, I'm going to start by, where were you in grade 9 when my English teacher asked me to read that 500-page book? So these correspondences obviously have come from outside our organization. Certainly I don't mind providing a summary of what those correspondences talk about. I think the first one you're referencing is the annual report about sort of the health sector, and that actually aligns to a lot of the work that Constable McIntyre does on a daily basis with our MSER program. So that is an annual report taking data from the whole province and sort of pushing it out in a fancy report with graphs and stuff, but it is very long in the tooth, and there is a lot of information that is hard to probably pull out to understand what they're talking about. I know in past years when that report has shown up, we've generally focused on the West region, the region that we police in, to see what are the trends occurring in our specific area. And so that report, obviously, it is very complicated to look at because it's painting a provincial picture, which, you know, in some cases doesn't really have any relevancy to our specific geographical area. So, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions about that report, but if going forward, you would like to see perhaps a summary or a pulling of information from that report, I can certainly look at doing that.
What is the board's perception on maybe just a small brief summary on, and it's not necessarily the 100-page report, it may be on a 10-page report, which is very important for the board to pay attention to, you know, those 3 or 4 pages or graphs, or maybe to talk about it later. So I don't think we want to put parameters around it, but maybe it's something that, Chief, if you felt there was a small segment that we should be aware of, what's at stake for us as board members or important for us, I'd appreciate that. So.
Mayor?
No, I understand what you're asking for, Mayor. You're just asking for an executive summary, just a one-page executive summary that could be just.
And not even necessarily one page.
Yeah.
Just
a couple
very,
paragraphs.
Yeah. So I'll just leave that open. My next question was on 5.1.4, the settlement funds of $10 billion to those 40,000 beneficiaries. And I noticed in the listing, none of our First Nations were mentioned in our area, and they did indicate the geographical area was that northern part of Georgian Bay and Lake Huron. I understand that. My question to the chief is, I wondered if this might set, this settlement might set a precedent for other treaties of First Nations land rights. I know that there's still a lot of discussion in our area about some of those land rights, and does this open up maybe further payouts? It's just a broad question.
So through the chair to Member Hunt, for full transparency, I'm not that familiar with this treaty and the context as to what brought it to this point where it has now been settled. You know, my love of history certainly informs me that there is probably many other settlements that are still probably before the various courts. So I think that you will continue to see, as those settlements get finalized, further information being shared about those. I will speak for our partners with the Indigenous police throughout the province. So there is the acronym is IPCO, the Indigenous Police Chiefs of Ontario, which work hand in hand with the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. And obviously they are dealing with several operational type challenges that we in the OACP are seeing for the Fairmount. But in addition to, say, daily operational challenges, they are also facing some administrative challenges that I would say are not part of my day-to-day challenges. Funding, recruitment, providing services in far remote communities are additional challenges outside of just, say, turning the lights on and operating a police service. So I think historically, Indigenous communities have had a lot of challenges, and I don't see a very short-term solution to that changing in the short term. And I think that whatever supports, you know, we as community members in non-Indigenous communities, whatever we can do to help and support them, I think is very important. But sorry, just to answer your original question, I'm not familiar with what other potential settlements are pending.
Thank you.
Member Wiersma, did you have a question?
Curious, 515, risk-driven tracking database 2000. How does this affect us, or does it explain, is this good or bad?
So through the chair to Member Wiersma, I do believe this is maybe the 100+ page report that Member Hahn is referring to. So in 30 words or less, it represents a summary of a lot of the work that, again, Constable McIntyre and the mobile crisis response team deal with on a fairly daily basis. So it is, it's tracking sort of the sources of calls, call types, and issues that are impacting communities. And again, it's a provincial sort of lens, but it does have sort of, it does drill down to, you know, the West region, the Central region, East region, and such. So it is clearly indicating that mental health, homelessness, addictions, and crime are the driving factors impacting a lot of those interactions with police agencies and community members. It does drill down a little bit deeper into gender-based challenges, and it's also broken down in through age groups as to what might be impacting people at various points in their life. So an example of those who are, say, teenage to early 20s, it may be mental health and addictions and drug-related issues. Once you get, say, to the 45 and over, all of a sudden homelessness issues, food security issues become sort of the more important or challenges that that age group is facing. So it's sort of a pretty good summary of what's happening not only in local areas but provincially, and where hopefully those upper levels of government can identify further areas to help fund those social disorder issues that you know, at some point have cross-pollination with policing and lead to those interactions that we have with people going through a mental health crisis, dealing with homelessness, food insecurity, and addiction.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. If that is it for us dealing with communications, what we'll do now is we'll move to the item which we moved up in the program a little bit, and that is that the 2024 school backpack program. And I'm going to turn the floor over to the chief in a moment to introduce the program, but I would first like to extend a welcome to Constables Michelle McIntyre and Constable Catherine Lockwood, who are here to do the presentation. But Chief, over to you to set this up for the two constables.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'll start just by saying Constable McIntyre wore her hat. I didn't realize they were twinning today, so we just wanted to make sure that you were able to tell them apart during her presentation. It's a tremendous honor to bring both of them forward today to talk about probably one of the most successful community engagement programs that we've had in existence here in our community. Constable McIntyre, as you well know, carries a lot of hats, or wears a lot of hats, literally and figuratively, including the Mobile Crisis Response Team, Community Services, and is our media relations member as well. Constable Lockwood is a uniform member. More recently was doing some time, for lack of better terms, in our court services branch while she was recovering from an injury. But obviously has a heart for community services and the positive impacts that it can make in our community. So this program, this was the third year of its existence in our community. And it's not just a police program. I want to make that very clear right from the start. There are a lot of great partners that we are working with, and I know that Michelle and Catherine will sort of highlight that partnerships that we have. But it is providing an immediate need for youth in our community. And it's the backpack program, as you're well aware. But it provides much needed resources for a lot of community members as they embark on and return to school. I think we can all appreciate, looking back to when we were kids and that, apprehension, nervousness about being back in school. Did we get new shoes? Do we have all the things that we need to, sit in a classroom and feel like we are part of a larger community? And so this program helps leverage the kindness, the appreciation that our local community has and what we know them to be. And that's to step forward and help people when we know that there is a need. And so they were very, very successful, and without me taking all of the air out of the room, I'll let them explain the partnerships and the programs and the impacts that it had in our community.
Thank you for that, Chief. So back in 2022, we approached Salvation Army in order to jumpstart this campaign within our community. And they were generous enough to help facilitate that for us. We also reached out to the Strathroy Fire Association, who also is in partnership with us. And most recently this year, Oneida and Chippewa Police has also jumped on our bandwagon and has assisted us. As for in 2022, we started the campaign and we donated approximately 150 backpacks to members in our community. In 2023, the number increased for the need, so we were able to donate 200 backpacks. And then in this year, 2024, once again, the need has increased. So we were able to donate 250 backpacks. 50 of those backpacks also went down to our First Nation partnerships of Chippewa and Oneida. In regards to community support, not only the members, but Home Hardware was generous enough to donate 100 fully stocked backpacks to our campaign, as well as ASG. They not only did a monetary sponsorship, but they also sponsored our signs that we put out when we're collecting all of our donations. This year for monetary donations, we were able to bring in $7,200. So not only does that also go with purchasing additional supplies that we would require to put in those backpacks, but it also goes into a reserve through Salvation Army so that the schools can access that for whether or not shoes or additional supplies are needed. We've also gotten them in contact with Salvation Army to help facilitate more breakfast programs and snacks as well.
Not only were we able to do the bags, we also, each school got a whole box or a bag full of supplies. We often know that teachers actually go out of their way and spend their own money when usually later in the year when supplies kind of get less for our students. So we thought it would be a good idea to pack a box each for each school, and that's full of extra pencils, pens, paper, everything they would need. So that was a nice extra thing that we could do for this year. Again, we really appreciate the sponsorship because now we have a fund that is ready to be used for all different items that the school may be used. We also are considering this year with the extra funds is looking at sponsoring it. We do the Cranma Cruiser, as you know, for many years, which kind of is why Catherine and I came up with the backpack for kids idea, based on kind of the Cranma Cruiser that we've done for many years. And we're hoping to work with Salvation Army and sponsor a family for a whole turkey dinner and gifts as well. And that sponsorship would be something that we would hope our police association we would go to cover some of the costs as well. So that's just an idea that we're coming up going into the winter months now. But we've been really happy with the support from our community. Obviously, we all know going to the grocery store, things are getting more expensive. And I truly do feel like with my role in the mobile crisis response team, I've been able to build relationships with different families in need, and I actually had a lot of families that we do support reach out to me directly asking for backpacks, and we were able to tailor them to their family, their interests, different things. So that was really great to see. But often we do have them go directly to the school and the principals to hand them out because we don't want to center anybody out, and we want it to be as discreet as possible as we support our families in need.
Sorry, I was just going to add in, I know that, and I'll maybe let Michelle or Catherine sort of speak to this. They reference obviously the collaboration and the support that our First Nation communities were able to get with receiving some of the backpacks. But do you want to speak to some of the other communities outside of Strathroy-Caradoc and schools in those areas that were also perhaps recipients of some of these items?
We make sure that all our local schools, we go to our local schools first and ensure that obviously our community members often ask, like, are these going to our local schools? So we do give them the first opportunity, and if we have extra supplies, we do open that up. This was the first year that Oneida and Chippewa came out. They actually joined us at Giant Tiger. We had a bunch of different service, we call it swag, so pencils and sunglasses and different things handing out to the community. But it was really great to all be together at that event. And we opened up we asked them how many bags they need, and they started at 50, and we hope to continue to grow that program. And as people in their community realize this program is available to them, hopefully next year we can raise even more bags to donate to our First Nation communities.
So I think that you're getting the sense that this has been a very collaborative effort, two, a very successful effort. And again, our hope is that it impacts our community members in a very positive light, and it helps to not only develop but strengthen those relationships that we, through the policing agency, have with our community. But again, recognizing that this is beyond just the police service. This is, as they mentioned, the fire services, corporations, community members. So it's all hands on deck approach, but again, it helps demonstrate what this community, who this community is, and how they always step forward to serve up those who maybe need a hand up at a very crucial time.
Any questions or comments by members of the board? Member Hahn.
absolutely fantastic. I never realized the outreach that this program enabled needy requirements. I never knew that schools were in receipt, and maybe it's the first year, but just having, as I know, teachers buy a lot of these supplies too, but that they know the pupils within their school system that might need that, like you said, that extra hand. So just fabulous. My question, or my, I wanted to ask, how do we maybe bring this, I know it was advertised, but the expansiveness of this program and the home hardware and the ACG company, how are we giving recognition to some of these kind donations? And I know every community member is part of it, but what has been the follow-up? Because this is, I think, really important in some of our strategic programming also, that we're a community-based policing service.
Absolutely, yeah. As the media officer, I make sure that we do make mention to, and it's, if anyone has seen the Facebook page during Backpack for Kids campaign, there are a lot of posts, and in almost every single one I will mention thank you again to our sponsor, thank you for home hardware, and I will continue putting that out just in case somebody missed that on the first one. We also often take photos when we pick up the items, and we put those photos out with the business and with those sponsors, just to share that to our community as well. I'm pretty sure Mark was able to send you some of our pictures that we took, but we often like to put that out there in the public and give them recognition, because we do really appreciate, and we need that community support for this program to continue to be as successful as it is.
I was just going to perhaps ask the secretary if she was able to pull up. I think there was 4 or 5 photos that were included as part of the eScribe submission that are photos that, again, that Constable McIntyre utilized in their social media campaign, which helps identify and recognize some of those partners that we were able to lean on.
While the clerk's looking for that, I think the mayor had a comment. Did you, Mayor?
Yeah, you're very humble, and you did a great work. And when I look down at the where it fits into the strategic plan, it talks about customer service, but I don't think we have in our strategic plan just to do the right thing. And this is just an example of just doing the right thing. And then this is tremendous work, and it also speaks and business related to fact, you know, there are times where we get pushed about the need for our own community policing. And I think it's things like this that help drive home the fact that we do need our own community policing, but doing the right thing is never a strategic goal, but it is the right thing to do. So thank you for this.
I think the photos are up on the screen now. If you want to talk about them, well, do you want to say anything about them?
Yeah, the first one was at our local Walmart. I'm sure most of you recognize that was with one of our fire members that was volunteering their time, Salvation Army there in the red shirt, and myself and Catherine. That is our new sign. As you can see on the bottom corner, it does give recognition to the sponsored ASG for that sign, as well as donating. So that would go up at every location. At this point right now, we are set up at Walmart, our local Giant Tiger, and Real Canadian Superstore. Those are our 3 locations. For our Grandma Cruiser, we just had Canadian Tire also reach out, who wants to take part this year. So it is expanding in our local corporations that want to jump on board and support these programs. This is a photo that was taken at St. Vincent de Paul, I believe. Nope, Mary Wright, sorry. Sorry, so many photos I've taken. Mary Wright, and as you can see, this is a bin full of supplies, and right at her feet there. So we give a bin full of supplies, and this is just a couple of the bags that obviously, like you can see, there are different age groups. So we have ones for our younger going into JKSK, as well as like our older youth as well. We do tailor the bags based on age, so each bag will get a lunch pail, a water bottle, and supplies that would be needed for that age. This is the first year we were able to get a lot of supplies for our high school kids. We do struggle. Everybody remembers the young kids, but often forget about our older teenagers. So obviously they need your scientific calculators, things that are a little bit more expensive. So we had a great turnout this year to be able to purchase a lot of those items and donate to our local high schools as well. There's my St. Vincent de Paul. So very similar, we were able to give a box of supplies, and the teachers and everybody at the schools are very appreciative of getting these donations, so that's great. This was one of our final posts on our media. So I know it's a little bit small to see, but it kind of shows like a picture when we received a whole van full from the Home Hardware. As well as all our different locations, ones at Real Canadian Superstore there, ones at Walmart and Giant Tiger. So we were able to pull all those pictures together. Real Canadian Superstore. That was our sign that we were using, handmade by Catherine and I before we got a sponsored sign. So we were really excited about our sponsored sign. So we did the best we could up to that point. So. This is our first year. We had a very successful first year with the program. Obviously you see the police car, but to the right is the fire truck, and to the left is one of our local bus from Langs. I guess we should also give a shout out to Langs because they have come out in the past and set up a bus at different locations, and the youth that are donating really get excited when they get to go up in the bus and put the items in the bus. So.
Thank you very much for that. Such a great way to make the younger members of our community appreciate the fun of going to school and the idea that the police officers are their friends and they're peace officers in the community. I thank you very much for your presentation. I don't know if there are any other comments or questions, but all I can say is that I wish you best for the upcoming year, and I know planning probably starts well in advance. Your planning for next year probably starts now. And I would encourage you to maybe carve out a participation space for members of this board and members of council at some point. If you feel you would like to have us drawn in, we can also perhaps assist by volunteering in some capacity, or even, in terms of helping to raise donations.
We really appreciate that. Catherine and I usually pack the bags ourselves for 200 and something bags, so we always look for volunteers to come and want to pack some bags with us, so thank you so much.
Well, I think that'd be a great activity just to bring everything to the council chambers and put the council members in backpacks for an evening. And I don't think you'd get much of an argument there. I think being able to assist by packing the bags or something like that, a task like that, I mean, sign me up. I think that we want to draw upon all the resources available to support this program. And so, thank you for setting this up, and maybe other people will be late to the party for 2025, but I think, please reach out, and as it gets bigger, I know the work probably expands exponentially. Like once everything comes in and you've got this mound of things, there's a huge amount of work. So sign me up, and maybe other members of the community and council and police board would show up for that, and it'd be a good feeling. So thank you so much for that, and I'll turn the floor back to the chief for a review of monthly police service reports.
Great, thanks. This is where you guys get an opportunity to lead. So choose to.
Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you too.
One second, I have to do a formality. Quite right, the clerk has said, the recommendation that the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services Board received report POL 2024-21 2024 school backpack program for information. Do I have a mover? Member Wiersma, the mayor, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you. Now we're done. We have to officially proceed. So it has been received. Thank you so much for your hard work.
So if I may, Chair, the monthly report is there. I think as I customarily do, I will certainly sort of just pause and take any questions or comments from the members in regards to any of the reports that are in front of you.
Okay, well, let's do this methodically then. Any questions or comments on item 6.1 by any members of the board? 6.2. Overtime reports, 6.3, any questions? 6.4, use of force report, any questions on this? 6.5, freedom of information, any reports, questions on that? Then finally, the budget update, profit and loss statement. Okay, the mayor and then member on.
Yeah, sorry, Chairman, Mike, not necessarily related to the budget, but the line item, and it's more of a question, Chair, maybe for you and the chief. Just looking at the line item regarding the annex, the new building, and knowing that budget deliberations are coming up soon for the TAP municipality and also for police services. Is there anything happening with the annex, the addition request, and then also a comment or question of the chief? I know municipal grants. Are there provincial grants that would help with the renovations? Just overall, General Chair, I'm just trying to get a sense, knowing that our budget deliberations are coming up and it'll be on there. Just more questions regarding the addition. Where are we at with that? Is there any change? Are you aware of any provincial grants related specifically to policing?
So, a couple questions unpacked there, so through the chair to the mayor. So, first of all, the 500,000 that shows in the 2024 budget line, excuse me, was a transfer from the reserves, the police reserve account, to basically kind of put that as a placeholder. The 2025 budget I have crafted. I've had a couple of quick discussions with the Director of Finance, and I was planning to present that at the October board meeting. As is customary, I tend to sort of have the board chair and the mayor in for a very short presentation before it gets in front of the full board, so that they have a chance to do a line-by-line sort of review of where the 2025 budget will sit. I can tell you from an operation perspective, the draft so far is sitting under or inside a 2% increase.
Wow.
And a lot of that kind of falls on the heels of the increased 911 services that we are now providing at the county level, which obviously has an injection of revenue that helps offset some additional expenditures that will be coming in 2025, but it's a very good news story that we were looking at a sub 2% increase for 2025. That being said, my intention is to bring forward a position about moving forward with the building annex for 2025. Hopefully, and again, you'll see in this budget update that we're still trending in a good direction with a surplus even for 2024, which again will will then land in the reserve account. So we're tending to sort of have some small increases or additions going into our reserve account, which is going to help. Specifically, the question about grant programs, I'm not aware of any specifically, but I also have some fairly regular communications with the Solicitor General.
That's where I was going. I know you talked to me.
Will deliver or cultivate some opportunities to see if there is some funding opportunities that might come about. So yeah, so that's kind of where the 2025 budget is pointed towards, but I'll certainly bring forward some more information about the building annex ask for 2025.
And follow up for the mayor.
Yeah, and say hello to Michael for me when you talk to him and tell him the mayor is asking for money, but I think that's important, Chair, because learning about our budget deliberations, grants and funding will come up, and I know you have some great contacts, so I'd ask if we could mine those and use those to help us pay for this. Yep, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Member Hahn, you had a question.
I had two questions for the chief. Looking under the capital, and I believe it's the body cameras, the Axon project, and I know currently at the end of August we're sitting 65,000 over the budget. Do you anticipate any further costs in this calendar year on that project?
So through the chair to Member Hahn, no, we do not. So this was a mid-year upgrade opportunity that we acted on, knowing that we would exceed the budgeted amount on the capital side. To offset that over expense or overture in spending, we dialed back a couple of other areas in the capital program area, so that we at the end of the year we'll have we will not exceed the expenses that we were planning on spending.
My second question was under civilian salaries, there's a line item called under civilian police-overtime. And I noticed currently it's 162% of the budget, and the previous year was like, I think, double the budget also. Can you explain that to us?
Yes, so another excellent question, and through the chair to Member Hahn. So we've had a couple of full-time members. One was off on a maternity leave, and we actually had two other members who, through various short-term leaves, left us short. So to ensure staffing levels were maintained, we ran into some overtime issues there. We've also been doing some extensive training of new members, and that has required us to pay some members to stay in addition or exceeding the hours they were normally scheduled for. Our end goal is to ensure that we have enough staff members on complement so that we aren't in this position of having to continuously train and experience overtime related issues.
So is it police, like civilian, officers' time in that category? I know the overtime line, but when it says police-overtime.
Yes, so sorry, that's an oversight. The police should not be in there. This is specifically the civilians in the organization.
Okay.
So I'll get that amended, and either that's something that we can edit out, or I'll have to talk to perhaps the Director of Finance to get that amended at the reporting level.
I understand, thanks.
Thank you for that. So I guess what we do then is we'll just send a recommendation that the monthly report 61 to 66 be received for information. I'll throw in as amended with that one little item there. Can we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Member Hahn, seconded by Member Wiersma. All those in favor? And that is carried. We had already dealt with item 7 because that had been moved. So we're now to inquiries or comments by members. And I'll start with Member Wiersma. Do you have any inquiries or comments, sir?
None.
Okay, over to Member Hahn. Do you have any inquiries or comments?
None.
Over to the mayor.
None.
Okay, I have one, and I guess it's a piece of business. I'm not sure if we need it, but we had mentioned that the traffic committee would be the appropriate venue to deal with micro-mobility vehicles and maybe possibly review the local bylaw with maybe some kind of recommendation to council. I don't know if we require a resolution for that, or if that's just something we're just directing maybe the chief and the mayor, if you're on that committee, Mayor.
I wrote it down, if
Okay,
that helps.
Okay, so maybe we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't need a formal resolution.
No, I wrote it down.
No,
It's
just
right there.
just trying to have it all make sense. Okay, so if there, Mayor, do you have any inquiries or comments? You said no.
No.
Okay, that's fine. So so that moves us to number 9, in-camera matters, and I need to read something here now. The board may move into closed session for the purpose of discussing the following: one item in accordance with council's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes, two items pursuant to section 44, subsection 2, subsection B of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 as amended regarding personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employee of the board, and one item pursuant to section 44, subsection 2, subsection D of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 as amended regarding labor relations or employee negotiations. The recommendation to the board move into closed session at 10:50 a.m. We need a mover in a second. Moved by member Hahn, seconded by the mayor. All those in favor? Carried. And so we are now moving into in-camera. I'll wait Welcome back, everyone. We're going to resume the open session. Recommendation that closed session, oh, excuse me, I'm reading the wrong piece of paper. Recommendation that the open session resume at 11:50. All those in favor, moved, seconded, moved by the mayor, seconded by Member Hahn. All those in favor, carried. Okay. And report on the closed session. I don't know, reporting on the closed session.
Yeah, so you can just, right up here, you'll
Read
just
up here.
report
Well,
that.
just to read the same thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget it's the same thing that we said read on the way in. One item in accordance with the council's procedure bylaw was discussed to improve in-camera minute meetings. 2 items pursuant to section 44, subsection 2, subsection B of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 is amended regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board. 1 item pursuant to section 44(2)D of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 is amended regarding relations or employee relations. Okay, so we're back in open session. Okay, and recommendation that the direction in closed session be approved. Moved by Member Hahn, seconded by Member Wiersma. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, which takes us to schedule the meetings. And we are scheduled to have meetings on Wednesday, October 16th, 2024 at 10 a.m., Tuesday, November 19th, 2024 at 10 a.m., and Tuesday, December 17th, 2024 at 10 a.m., which will be the last meeting of 2024 already. Thank you very much, at which point I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Member Wiersma, seconded by the mayor. All those in favor? Approved, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We got there.